October 7, 1949, Jean Spangler set out on a momentous journey that would forever alter the course of her life. After bidding a tearful farewell to her 5-year-old daughter, Christina, she departed from her Park La Brea apartment, vanishing without a trace and leaving an irreplaceable void in her daughter's existence. Born on September 2, 1923, in Seattle, Washington, Jean Elizabeth Spangler was the cherished offspring of Florence and Cecil Spangler. Her youthful dreams were adorned with aspirations of a career as a model or actress. Following her graduation from Los Angeles Franklin High School, she eagerly pursued a career in the world of modeling. As her career blossomed, Jean ventured into the realm of dance, gracing the stages of Florence Gardens and the infamous Earl Carroll Theater. Despite the latter's notoriety, it catapulted her into even greater prominence. In 1941, Jean's Hollywood journey led to cameo appearances in films such as When My Baby Smiles at Me, Chicken Every Sunday, and The Piper. Throughout her brief yet noteworthy career, she contributed to the success of over 15 films, even if her roles were often too minor to receive official recognition. At the tender age of 19, Jean embarked on the path of matrimony, joining her life with that of Dexter Benner, a budding entrepreneur in the plastic manufacturing industry. Their modest 2-year age difference marked the beginning of a promising chapter in her life. The union between Jean and Dexter proved to be short-lived, spanning only a few months and marked by Jean's departure due to allegations of Dexter's cruelty. Despite their separation, their connection endured, and approximately a year and a half later, Christina came into the world. However, by 1946, the couple's turbulent journey had reached a breaking point as they officially went their separate ways, entering into a bitter custody battle for their daughter. During this legal tussle, Benner contended that Jean prioritized social gatherings over her parental responsibilities. Initially, thanks to his financial resources, Benner managed to secure custody of Christina and promptly forbade Jean from seeing her daughter. Undaunted, Spangler pursued legal avenues that eventually led to a reversal of the previous custody decision, ultimately reuniting Christina with her mother. In 1948, Jean and her daughter relocated to a modest 3-room apartment in Park La Brea, Los Angeles, where her brother and his wife also resided. A chronology before the disappearance. October 7, 17 o'clock. Jean shared her plans with her sister-in-law, Sophie, regarding her upcoming departure. Since her mother was away visiting relatives in Kentucky, Sophie graciously offered to care for Christina during Jean's absence. Jean disclosed that her reason for leaving was to meet with Benner, as they needed to address the overdue issue of child support payments. After this pivotal meeting, Spangler intended to immerse herself in an evening of filming for her upcoming movie project. 18 o'clock. A vigilant observer caught sight of Jean at the nearby farmer's market, located in close proximity to her apartment. The vendor vividly remembered her presence as she wandered among the market stalls, giving the impression that she might have been disoriented or in search of someone. 19 o'clock. Jean contacted Sophie, who was staying at the apartment, to inform her that the evening film shoot was likely to stretch into the night. This departure from their previous arrangement, which had stipulated her return by midnight, was addressed during the conversation. It's likely that Jean made this call from the farmer's market rather than the movie studio. Regardless of the location, this discussion marked the last communication between Sophie and Jean. October 8, 1:30. Multiple individuals came forward, claiming to have seen Jean at the Cheesebox restaurant on Sunset Boulevard. She was in the company of a tall, dark-haired man, and it was clear to bystanders that they were embroiled in a heated dispute. The last confirmed sighting of Jean at this establishment was registered at 2:30 a.m. according to the clock. 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. An employee at a city gas station had a brief encounter with Jean and an unidentified man when they pulled up in a convertible to refuel. As they departed, the woman urgently conveyed a message to the clerk, saying, "Please ask the police to tail that car." Subsequently, the gas station employee contacted the police to relay the incident. Unfortunately, given the lack of specific details, such as the license plate number or a description of the man, the provided information had limited utility. As the morning of October 8 arrived and Jean had not yet returned home, Sophie grew increasingly concerned, sensing that something untoward had befallen her. In response to this mounting anxiety, she took swift action that same morning by reporting Spangler's disappearance to the Wilshire Police Department in Los Angeles. However, due to Jean's profession as an actress and her age, law enforcement initially failed to give her case the gravity it deserved. Consequently, they refrained from disseminating any news about the search for her. Finding Griffith Park. Griffith Park, one of the largest urban parks in North America, sprawls across a vast expanse covering 17.5 square kilometers. Nestled in the Los Feliz neighborhood on the eastern edge of the Santa Monica Mountains, this expansive park offers an array of attractions, including an observatory, a zoo, museums, and an amphitheater. However, beneath its tranquil exterior, Griffith Park carries a darker, more ominous reputation as a recurring location for murders and the discovery of lifeless bodies. On October 9th, an employee of Griffith Park stumbled upon Jean Spangler's bag near the park's entrance. Inside the bag were her identification and a handwritten note bearing a cryptic message. "Kirk, I can't wait any longer. I'm going to see Dr. Scott. It's best to do this while Mom is out of the house." Curiously, one of the bag's handles had been torn off, but there were no signs of a thorough search. Sophie, Jean's sister-in-law, confirmed that Jane had not carried any money with her that day, ruling out the possibility of a robbery-related loss. The discovery of Jean's bag prompted the police to take her disappearance more seriously. By late afternoon, a contingent of 60 police officers and volunteers had assembled in the park to initiate the search for Jean. Simultaneously, investigators began efforts to locate witnesses who might provide information about her whereabouts. Interestingly, Jean had informed Sophie the night before her disappearance that she had an evening shoot related to a new movie. In light of this, the police decided to investigate this lead. However, inquiries with the studio where she worked revealed no record of Jean participating in the evening shoot or even showing up for the event. Ex-husband. The police conducted an interview with Dexter Benner, who revealed that he had not seen his ex-wife in several weeks. His new spouse, Lynn, whom he had married just 2 months prior, provided him with an alibi for the time in question. Although Benner had admittedly fallen behind on his alimony payments, he vehemently disputed Sophie's assertion that Jean was scheduled to meet with him that evening to discuss financial matters or any related issues. Following Spangler's disappearance, Benner and Jean's mother, Florence, became entangled in a prolonged legal battle over the custody of their daughter, Christina. Ultimately, Benner prevailed in this legal dispute. 2 years later, Dexter and his new wife initiated adoption proceedings in an attempt to officially establish Lynn as Christina's legal mother. Their argument revolved around the claim that Jean had abandoned her daughter. However, a judge rendered a verdict, citing a lack of conclusive evidence regarding Jean's fate, and consequently prevented the adoption from moving forward. Subsequently, Benner and his family relocated to Florida and did not return to California. Kirk's lover. Following the tumultuous encounter with Jean's ex-husband, law enforcement initiated a series of interviews with her colleagues. Among them was Robert Cummings, her co-star in the film Girl of the Year. During his conversation with investigators, Cummings revealed a significant detail from a discussion he had with Jean 2 weeks prior to her disappearance. Jean confided in him that she had recently experienced a deeply fulfilling encounter, describing it as the best moment of her life. Curiously, she didn't perceive this relationship as a serious one and did not mention the man's name. Jean's mother, Florence, also provided valuable insights to the police. She recalled her daughter mentioning someone named Kirk, whom she knew to be a colleague from work. Florence further disclosed that this individual, Kirk, had picked up Jean from their home on several occasions. However, he never left his car, and this peculiar behavior struck Florence as odd. A 13-year-old neighbor who was acquainted with Jean added an intriguing yet puzzling detail. She claimed to have observed Jean driving toward North Hollywood with an older man behind the wheel roughly a week before Jean's disappearance. This sighting left the young witness with the impression that Jean appeared quite nervous. Given her personal familiarity with Jean, the police took this testimony seriously, although it ultimately did not lead to a breakthrough in the case. For a time, suspicion swirled around actor Kirk Douglas, but it was not given serious consideration as he had minimal acquaintance with Jean, having only crossed paths with her a few times during the filming of Trumpet, a botched abortion. As time passed, the Jean Spangler case remained stagnant, with no significant developments on the horizon. Private investigator Steve Hodel, who had embarked on his own investigation into the matter, authored a book detailing his findings. In the book, he proposed an intriguing theory. I believe that Kirk is not a first name, as everyone, including the LAPD chief, Ted Brown, who suspected actor Kirk Douglas of the murder, thinks it's actually a last name. Kirk, I believe, was Dr. Eric Kirk, a chiropractor and abortionist. The release of Hodel's book sparked controversy and briefly led to the arrest of Dr. Eric Kirk. However, LAPD Captain Ed Jokish expressed strong reservations about the book's content and penned an open letter to its author. Your book is replete with baseless innuendo, misinformation, and logical fallacies that make it impossible to take seriously, wrote the former police officer Ed Jokish. In a surprising twist, one of Jean's friends eventually revealed to the police that Spangler had been 3 months pregnant, a result of an extramarital affair. Armed with this new information, investigators decided to interview all doctors in the Los Angeles area with the last name Scott. Unfortunately, none of them had any records of treating Jean. Furthermore, the police uncovered the existence of a former medical student known as Doc from a wealthy family involved in performing illegal abortions for a fee. However, the cloak of secrecy surrounding this mysterious doctor prevented anyone from sharing information, thwarting the police's efforts to locate him. In another intriguing lead, investigators learned that during Benner's time in the Army, Jean had dated an airline pilot who had allegedly threatened her with harm if she ever left him. This individual was known as Scotty. Regrettably, this lead also proved unfruitful in the quest for answers. The Mafia, in light of Jean's frequent visits to the Palm Springs area and her recent sightings there just days before her disappearance, the police initiated a series of interviews with employees of local establishments where Spangler might have been seen. During these inquiries, detectives uncovered troubling connections. Jean had been seen in the company of Davy Aguila and Frank Nicoli, both known associates of the notorious mobster Mickey Cohen. Efforts were launched to locate Aguila and Nicoli, but they vanished mysteriously without a trace. Subsequently, the police received disturbing information suggesting that both men had met a grim fate, allegedly murdered and disposed of at the bottom of the Cucamonga lime quarry. Despite these claims, no bodies were ever recovered. Given the formidable power and brutality of the mob, it became plausible that Jean might have inadvertently stumbled upon a violent encounter or, worse yet, been kidnapped. 4 months later, a customs official stationed in El Paso, near the Mexican border, asserted that he had seen Jean alive in the company of Nicoli and Aguila. Another witness came forward, claiming to have spotted the trio at a nearby hotel and confirming their identities through photographs. Yet, the police were unable to definitively establish whether the woman in question was indeed Spangler, as the trail vanished somewhere in Mexico. Additional witnesses emerged over time, But the search for Jean evolved into one of the most extensive manhunts in Los Angeles history, inundated with false claims that complicated the process of verifying sightings. Ultimately, none of the proposed scenarios, including involvement of her ex-husband, a lover, a botched abortion, or a mob kidnapping, were definitively substantiated. The fate of Jean Spangler remains shrouded in mystery, leaving us with more questions than answers.